everything is measurable, you know how the algorithm works, and you can target keywords, and everything is transparent. Then I also then took over. So when I was working for this vertical search engine, I was responsible for all traffic, and we didn't have money. So well, it was obviously SEO. I was just I don't know, flabbergasted, or whatever is the word. I was just amazed how intransparent SEO was. And so, yeah, and then Google took those keywords away there as well. But like, you can't measure the ROI. Like, there's no keyword reports. But you have all this content, you want to target that. And so, if you spend a lot of money, that's the other thing.
Welcome to Endless Coffee Cup, a regular discussion of marketing news, culture, and media for our complex digital lifestyle. Join Matt Bailey as he engages in conversation to find insights beyond the latest headlines and deeper understanding for those involved in marketing. Grab a cup of coffee, have a seat, and thanks for joining.
Well, hello, dear listener, and welcome to another edition of the Endless Coffee Cup podcast. And today we are going to talk about a fundamental part of search. And this goes back years, but yet it's a fundamental part, but you know what? No one talks about it anymore. And that's what led me to today's guest, Andreas Dzumla. Andreas, you are the CEO and founder of LongTailUX. And as soon as I got contacted by one of your employees, I knew we just had to talk. So, Andreas, could you take a few minutes and just introduce yourself and maybe a little bit of your background as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks, Matt. Yeah, as you said, I'm the co-founder and CEO of LongTailUX. So that's a startup that actually focuses on the long tail. So that topic we talk about. My background, I worked at Google back in the day, joined pre-IPO, worked there as a product specialist in Europe, working a lot with the people in the US, with the engineering team on some really early products of what was called AdWords back then. So we launched AdWords Editor, the first version, the first mobile ads. That was before the iPhone, and a few other early things. And then I worked for a startup, for a vertical search engine that was in Spain, but it was like we had 12 websites in 12 countries, and that was an aggregator for real estate. And so we had a lot of content, but we had to compete with our own partners. Right? We were aggregating all these different real estate ads, portal ads, but didn't have as much domain authority, didn't have any money for paid advertising. And so the only way actually how we could work was focusing on the long tail. And so that's where the whole saga started. It took a while to figure out how we do that. And then it became very successful. After that, so that was in Spain. I'm originally from Germany, as you can probably guess from my accent, can never hide it. And yeah, and then I moved to Australia. And over here, I worked for Vistaprint, so I worked on their search marketing, translations, for like JPEG markets, managed like a small team there, and then ended up working or managing an agency, digital marketing agency in the Dentsu Aegis group, and that's where the long tail caught up with me again, because that was in 2012, 13, and it was still important, and well, still important today.
Absolutely. And for any of the listeners, if you don't know what the long tail is, think about how you search. And you know what, Andreas, this was just posted yesterday on LinkedIn. Someone took my course on SEO keywords, and I was just amazed because usually people just post, I took this course, and there you go. What she did was she actually looked at her past searches, such as how to maintain a coat for a certain dog, or how often should you wash a dog, or where are local. And I made a comment. I said, not only did you outline a typical day in the life of a searcher, but you also showed great examples of long tail searches, the very specific 4+ words that highly detail what it is you're looking for. And we don't talk about it much anymore, don't we?
Yeah, no, we really don't talk about it a lot anymore. It's a bit like search as a channel as well. It's sort of like it's old school. It's been there forever. I mean, 20 years now. And it's sort of, I mean, obviously there's also more and more automation built into everything. And yeah, but the reality is it's still there. I mean, so the Longtail book, we talked about this came out in 2004 or 5 was the article in the Wired and then the book. And I mean, the Longtail was there before. The Longtail was there afterwards as well. I think that the special thing about search is that it makes it visible.
Yes.
Because you have consumers looking for something very specific everywhere, like all the time. But in the search channel, they actually do you the favor of typing in what they want, and you can actually then identify, oh, that's 4 words. Oh, that's very specific, right? You wouldn't know that when someone clicks on a display banner ad or email or whatever, and searches. But then, obviously, the funny thing happened that the company that brought keywords to light took a lot of them away again. So when we talk about SEO, obviously, that was actually the same time where we started a LongTailUX, and suddenly keywords disappeared from organic search reports. So maybe that's the reason why people don't talk about it as much
That
anymore.
could be because I look at that as kind of like the Black Friday of SEO. That one day, and that's the thing. Same as you, I read that article in Wired and I went and looked, and it was, yeah, October of 2004 that the article came out. Then the book came out, and it rocked, I think, the whole SEO world. But yet I was seeing this in analytics. It was just amazing. And we were seeing where, yeah, 80% of the keywords that were long tail were providing it was like 80% of the keywords were providing 80% of the business. And the 2 or 3 word phrases that, the CEO wants or
Mhm.
the stakeholders want, they didn't produce anything. And so, yeah, we were seeing that early. And that was such a fundamental part of SEO, was finding that those magical long tail phrases and groups of phrases, and then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
And I to this day, I'm still not satisfied with the answer we've been given, that it's for privacy.
Yeah.
But oh man, that could be one of the biggest reasons, but yet it still exists. You can find it in keyword research tools. You can find it in Google Trends, even
Yeah.
shows that. So it's still very much a reality.
You know what my theory is why it disappeared actually? It's cost. It's just when you imagine the disk space. I mean, Google made it really cheap, and they have all these data centers. But imagine, like, we work with large enterprise clients, and we get our lots of our long tail data from the search term reports from paid search now. But literally, like, you run like a 1 month paid search term report for a large company, and you get like 1 million rows. Like, it's ridiculous. It's just when they spend a lot of money, obviously. And imagine that still makes some sense in Google Ads because that's a paid product. So
Right.
sort of giving this information so then people can bid more on those keywords and pay more money to Google. That makes sense for Google. But SEO is not a monetized channel. So giving all this information, storing that, processing that, and actually giving it back, it's actually, when you really think about it, you actually don't want to do that. So that's my theory. There you go.
I think that's a legit theory, because that's also my theory behind Core Web Vitals. The newest thing that they've done, where they want everyone to go skinny and light on their websites. Well, think about the storage space that it takes to cache every website and every page.
Yeah.
It's space that someone has to pay for. So I could
Yeah.
see that. And yeah, it takes a lot of processing time and a lot of space to give us all those keywords, but man, that's gold. That is such gold.
Yeah. It absolutely is. Theory actually why people don't talk about the long tail anymore is it's just so hard work.
Mm,
And that's actually one of the reasons why we started our like automation, or like what we call it, customer acquisition platform, which really focus on the long tail in a more automated way. It's so hard work. Everyone like the people who still talk about the long tail talk about it as a niche opportunity.
mm.
So they basically say, if you have a new website, new product, that's where you find like how people ask questions, and then you can build out your manual content. But when you think about that, what I just said, like one of our clients or our customers, they have, there's like 1 million search terms. We actually looked at the year, it was 27 million
Wow.
long tail queries on paid search.
Wow.
27 million, that's a lot, right? What do you do with that? Like, unless you can automate stuff, like it's impossible. So you can't, like, even in ads where you can actually build out those campaigns, it's just so much work. It's
Absolutely.
rewarding when you do it, but you really, like, without automation, it's almost impossible. So I think that's one of the reasons, I guess.
That could be. I mean, at that scale, yeah, it's going to take something to manage that. But
Mhm.
I want to kind of get back before we get to your solution and what you're doing, which I think is
Yeah.
exciting. What was it about the long tail that, you're an ex-Googler, you were in it. What was it that captured your attention and really just drew you in to want to know more about that?
Hmm. I mean, first of all, I just like efficiency. So basically, so my first job at Google was I was working for some European markets, optimizing campaigns for large advertisers. So I was like a account strategist, I think it's called today. After that, I moved into product. And it's really just if you want to help them, and if you want to help them find the best bang for buck, right? Optimizing campaigns, well, it's a long tail. That's where you find it, right? Low cost per click, high conversion rates, happy days. Like if you connect it in the right way, it was work. Right, because you have to have the right ads for the right keywords, the right landing pages, etc. But it was just I just found it so powerful when you basically have a campaign and then you focus on the long tail, and suddenly you just double the ROI, and then people can spend more money and they can make even more money. So I really like that, and actually the ability that you can do it. And then when I read the article, so the interesting bit here is my background is actually I studied social science, nothing to do with internet or anything. It's like social systems, political systems, and so when I just look at this, this is so democratic. Like it's almost like searches are votes, and they're tiny, right? Like any long tail query in itself is just, I don't know, they don't have a lot of traffic, but overall they make the majority. And they can swing like whether your business is successful, but you can also take the information. They're basically votes for new products as well, or new directions of products. I just like, I don't know, that fascinated me as well.
Absolutely. I think what fascinated me was one of the examples that Chris Anderson gave in the article as well as in the book, and that was on music. That
Mm.
at the head of the tail, everyone, we like to say, everyone is searching for the popular, the top 5, top 10 artists. But yet I remember myself as a teenager, and this is back when we went to the record store. We didn't have streaming, but I never went. You would go to the big record stores to get the popular stuff, but you'd have to go to these out of the way, small business entrepreneur record stores that were, little seedy, little sketchy, but that's where you found the good stuff. And that was the long tail. That was the amount of people that were searching for these obscure hits. You weren't going to make a living off, a few of them. You needed to have an inventory, and that just wasn't possible in that
Yeah.
physical realm. But once it hit digital, that changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so really the power of technology to connect that, and then actually to create markets. I mean, for all these, well, more niche musicians and other types. The other thing I saw was, I mean, I worked at Google then when all that happened, and I just saw Amazon just being so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And really for me, Amazon basically like, well, the long tail was their business model in some way, right? That's how they won. But then on the other side, seeing like coming back to see my family in Germany, and everyone's complaining, oh, Amazon, they're just destroying our bookstores. And you think like, well, I sort of get that, but it's just they actually deliver. Well, people get what they want, and they get more, and they actually can do that. So maybe you just have to adapt somehow. I don't know. I just saw that, and I found that incredibly powerful as well. I mean, they were growing at crazy, but still do.
Well, it allows that small, singly owned bookstore to sell its books around the world. Whereas what the books they have may not be in demand in the local area. And again, that digital connection enables that. I understand completely where you're at with, some people don't like it, but yet it revolutionized the way things were sold in a digital world. And it's funny because I think that long tail kind of existed, but like you said, now we can quantify it. Now we can
Yep.
see the impact. For me, it kind of gave me hope that not everybody likes what's number one on the charts. that was kind of this vindication that, oh, thank God, to know that most people are still looking for good quality content. It's not always the head of the tail that is, it gets the headlines, but it's not what's going to pay your bills long term.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Exactly.
So you talk about being, in Google and an ex-Googler. Well, you also were running campaigns that, dug into the long tail and really kind of expounded what you knew and how you developed what would later become LongTailUX.
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I optimized campaigns for clients, but also that was really like, I mean, early days, right? 2004 when I started there, and there were still, I think that was just after they got rid of the top ads. I think just before I joined, they were still paid on impressions.
Okay.
So they were they were basically selling CPM on the top of the search results to large brands, and then realized that these tiny ads, those AdWords, just made them so much more money, and then moved that. So that was really early days, and there were, I don't know, I think there were 600,000 advertisers like worldwide, right? And they had 600,000 accounts, and that was a big problem. Like, there's a lot of data to process. I don't know, it's probably 600 million right now. So that was early days, and so we had our own test accounts. I think Google gave you like a $5 a day accounts, like free budget, to just play around, right? Because we had to learn ourselves also like how you optimize like all those campaigns. And then, I played around, and then some of my colleagues played around very successfully, and then they spent like some of their own money and becoming affiliates and running long tail campaigns for Amazon with affiliate links and making a lot of money. So yeah, we did that as well.
I played around with that probably around the same exact time. I started a hobby project blog about a niche, and I would review books, and in this niche I would put ads for Amazon on there and get those affiliate payments, and it worked well for a number of years. It was really amazing to see that you can build this community around a very specific niche and make money from doing it. It wasn't bad.
Yeah. Well, we did it with shortcut, right? We basically just put the affiliate codes into the Google ads. We're basically bidding on them. The ad would directly land on Amazon or on others. And so and then you would basically just capture the traffic directly. And there were not a lot of people bidding on those long tail keywords. Like, you would have like 5-10 cents, and then you have a pretty high conversion rate. And like, one of my colleagues in the S, he came to the office with a Mercedes SLK thanks to some of those campaigns. I mean, that was later, then they shut it down, etc. But yeah, so that really shows you the power when you know that and you focus, and others didn't. Obviously now, like, campaigns, everything is much more automated. I mean, Google has dynamic search ads, and so they try to cover that, because even if people don't focus on those long tail campaigns directly, try to capture that with automation. It's a bit different now.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different now, and it seems like when setting up campaigns, Google doesn't want advertisers to focus on long tail. It seems like now it's kind of this black box of, give us an idea of what you're selling and we'll connect you with people. And it's almost now my long tail is taken away. Like, Google saying, we really aren't interested in this. How is that working out?
I think that's, again, because it's expensive. Like, imagine now, maybe you have like millions of accounts. If everyone focuses on the long tail, you just have so much data to process, and the ads have to appear immediately. Like, it just costs a lot. Whereas when you run like dynamic search ads, like DSA campaigns or automation, or Google Shopping ads, it's even better. Give me your product feed, and I'll take care of the rest. Just pay me money. Figure out the matching. That's much easier for them from a technological perspective, and cheaper. So I think that's what's happening. Obviously, you can still target long tail, but it's a bit harder. Like, very often, like, you have those really, really long keyword lists, and not a lot of them get traffic because the account doesn't have enough history, etc. So it's tougher. But yeah, long tail is still, Google wants to, automation is cheaper for them. That's pretty much what it is.
It's interesting getting the perspective of a former Googler, because your responses, you see, now when I talk to SEOs, they fall into two camps. One is I hate Google and everything they do is to make my life difficult. The other one is, I love Google and I'm going to try and reverse engineer the algorithm and do whatever I can. And it's interesting, your perspective coming in is a very, how do I explain it? I'm trying to think of the word. It's a very efficient method. Is they're making decisions based on business expenses, that processing time and power and the cost for that would negate what we would make by doing this. I like the way you are approaching this, and I think this is a great lesson for any one of our SEOs that are listening, is Google's not always trying to make your life difficult. They're trying to make their life easier as well, just like any other business.
Exactly. I mean, my first answer to that is always, if Google wasn't there, you wouldn't have a job. I
Right.
mean, let's face it. No, honestly, I think that's completely underestimated, the amount of innovation Google dropped by just having the search engine
Hmm.
and having actually, like, I mean, the amount of businesses that would have never started without being able to start with keywords, targeting a specific audience, and then building the audience, whether SEO or paid search in search. Like it's massive. Like all the other businesses who then had to innovate because these new businesses suddenly were there and stealing their traffic and their audience, and their revenue base was stealing, being more efficient. So I think that's underestimated. Yeah, and as an SEO, like without Google, well, what would you do? You wouldn't be there. You would probably sit somewhere else and have a boring job. So that's one, but I think it's really important to understand always, like, why do you think Google does something? Not so much like what do they want, but like what would be the reason for doing that, right? Like if there's outrage, Google actually wanted. I think they're doing this, right? They're taking away like a big part of the search term reports as well. So I think when you don't have clicks and only have impressions, like for a certain amount of time, you will not find just impression only keywords in the report anymore. Again, this space just makes it just it's just I think it just gets rid of like 75% of the search terms, but you didn't like a click anyway, and you didn't make money. So it's almost useless for everyone. But there was outrage. Oh, now they're stealing the keywords from paid search as well. What will we do? They're rational decisions in the end, and it really helps if you try to understand that. It's like when you have a boss, right? You better understand what he wants and why he wants something. You can complain, still your boss.
Hmm. I mean, that's just good. Yeah, a good business sense of, if I understand why they want it this way, then I'll be able to better plan ahead, prepare, develop my, how I'm going to position what I want to do or any initiatives I want to enact if I know their motivation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people misread Google's motivations for some things.
Yeah, and there's so much noise out there as well. That's the
Oh,
problem, right? There's so many blog posts about a blog post on a blog post about SEO. So the amount of like blog posts on the algorithm changes,
oh,
just talking about it, but actually not even trying to interpret what that change actually means. It's just, oh, there was a change. We saw like big movements. Okay, thank you. Like, what aspect do you think, and what do we learn from this? Like, it's hard, but then you can keep yourself busy a lot with that. But yeah, if you don't align what you do with like the long term, what you actually, well, it's still an interpretation what you think what Google wants, right?
hmm,
But if you don't do that, it's going to be really hard, because you're not going to outplay a company with, I don't know, how many engineers do they have?
oh, yeah,
40,000?
tens
I
of
have no idea.
thousands.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, and they're pretty good too.
they are. And
Yeah.
And that's the thing I noticed, yeah, whenever there's an algorithm change, headlines everywhere. But I
Mm,
think even with the major algorithm changes, it's taken almost a year or more for people to figure out, well, what did they want?
yeah.
What were they trying to do for just about every major algorithm change? But, I've been doing this, I hate to say how long, but it, eh, there is a core set of what I would call SEO techniques that never change.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's give people what they want, and the search engines will be happy. It's a real simple calculation of, if you meet their needs, if they're looking for something and you have it. As a regular listener of the Endless Coffee Cup, you know that I am passionate about learning and teaching others. With that, I've launched my own education portal for marketing professionals. It's at learn.sitelogic.com. I'm creating and launching a series of courses on analytics. First course is how to create an analytics strategy that aligns to your business objectives. The second course is 6 analytics skills that turn data into insights. The third course, launching in just a few weeks, is how to eliminate data overload and improve your presentations. This final course teaches you how to speak the language of the C-suite in your presentations, making you more persuasive, powerful, and effective in your marketing role. You'll also find short topics on data, Google algorithms, and local SEO. And finally, the centerpiece is the OMCA certification course. This is a 40-hour coached course that provides you with a solid digital marketing foundation. At the successful conclusion of this course, you are eligible to sit for the OMCA exam, and you'll receive a free voucher for the exam, a $225 value that is included with your course enrollment. I'm an advocate of the OMCA certification, as OMCA certified marketers make 16 to 25% more than their non-certified coworkers. The OMCA is proof of your skills and knowledge in this industry. Go to learn.sitelogic.com right now to accelerate your marketing career. That's the essential part of it. You try and chase the algorithm, and you are going to run around in circles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a few basic principles, as you say, right? And really, you have to think about what's a search engine. It's something. It's an engine to find documents that are relevant to a search query, and the page is a document, right? So, first thing is document relevancy. How relevant is that page actually? And then the next thing is is authority, right? And then that's where the links come in, internal, external. And then the third one is, and that's I think where Google is special, I guess, to others as well. Then how do users interact with it, right? So one thing is SEO signals to get there, but then of course, do people stay on the site? Do they bounce? Like, what's the click rate, etc. So that then accumulates over time. But that's pretty much the basics. And yeah.
I want to shift gears here because I want to give a shout out to Millie. Millie actually contacted me and about an article she wrote. And she must have seen where I've talked about it and written about it. And so, Millie Davies, thank you for contacting me because that connected me with you. But she wrote an article, Why No One Talks About the Long Tail Anymore. And that got us talking. I thought it was a great article because you're explaining it, diving into it. But then I started seeing what you're doing to monetize that long tail. And as you said, help people automate and take advantage of that. So, dear listener, I'm not turning this into a commercial, but you need to hear this. It's good stuff.
Well, thanks, Matt. Yeah, I promise I'll explain the concept more than anything. So so really with the long tail, so I came from the paid search side, right? Everything is measurable, you know how the algorithm works, and you can target keywords, and everything is transparent. Then I also then took over. So when I was working for this vertical search engine, I was responsible for all traffic, and we didn't have money. So it was obviously SEO. I was just I don't know, flabbergasted or whatever is the word. I was just amazed how intransparent SEO was. And so and then Google took those keywords away there as well. But like you can't measure the ROI. Like there's no keyword reports. But you have all this content, you want to target that. And so if you spend a lot of money, that's the other thing. You make money on those long tail keywords in Google Ads very often, but you don't appear for the same keywords on organic search. So clearly you must deliver a good user experience, because otherwise you couldn't afford those ads, because people then buy. But in organic search, like you can't be there at the same time. How do you do that? So this was really like where we started thinking, you have to have more control. And that's where basically with this vertical search engine, we found a way. It's a very simplistic way, basically saying, okay, first of all, I want to know what my keywords are I want to target. And all those keyword tools for the long tail, they're not really very good. Like they don't give you data, or like give you bogus data, or well, really Google keyword tool, any keyword query, like four words or more, you just get, there's zero traffic. But it's not true, it's there. So we basically developed a system where you create a page for every keyword you want to target. The important thing is you can't do this for millions of pages. So we did that starting. That was before all these product aggregators who created like millions of pages for everything. You don't want to do that. So you actually want to know what's your core set of long tail keywords, right? Like if you have like 100,000 products, maybe take 10,000. Still a lot of keywords. And so once you know those keywords, you create a page for each of them, and then having the relevant content and put the content on there. So that you basically need to search like an internal search engine to match, right? You have a keyword and then you want to match your products to it, or your listings, or whatever you have. So then you have a page that's hyper relevant for this long tail keyword. That's amazing. Now the next problem is, okay, now you have 10,000 more pages. What are you going to do? You're going to put a link in the footer and then hope that Google somehow crawls it? That's not how it works, right? Like those pages need to be seen as an integral part of the website, but they also need to be seen as contextually relevant. So you need linking. So So what do you do then? You change all your menus and try to put like 10,000 links into the menus? Well, that you can't do that either. So we then developed a system where you basically have, we call them smart links, where basically it's like the links that could be like at the bottom of the page or below the navigation, but they have to be somewhere in the main text. The contextual interlinking. And then suddenly you have a system, you can target long tail keywords, you deliver a great user experience, you can integrate them contextually into the website, and then you actually can run a monthly landing page report, and you actually know which one of those pages got traffic, conversion rates, etc. So you create your own keyword report for SEO, which you didn't have before. Wow. So that's in a nutshell what we call what is LUX Organic, our solution for organic search. It's a way to be able to target long tail keywords and to measure your ROI and to measure everything end to end, and you deliver a good user experience. Mm-hmm. So that's how it works. So that started in 2008. Then came Panda. Then came Penguin. It still worked because it was always focused on not on traffic, not on rankings. It was focused on people seeing the page and wanting to pay you money, like buying something.
Right.
On user experience. So that's why it's LongTailUX.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's great how you're doing it. I love the idea because it's very similar to the search results page, where Google is suggesting different, based on your search, other people have asked this, or do you want to know more about that? And what you're doing is, if you don't see what you want on this page, here are links or descriptions of what you might be interested in. And so it's a very natural user-oriented method of guiding people into clicking. And when they click on it, you're getting the search data. Because, and that's the thing, I always love to capture the search data on a website, but people don't always use that. I feel like I did my search on Google. I'm not going to do it on your site. That's the attitude I think people bring.
Yeah, and people behave very differently as well. So when we look at internal search term data, like how people search on the website, but then look at your search term report from Google Ads, how they search on Google to get to the website, it's also a different way how they. So our biggest treasure trove is really, we work with large enterprises that spend millions on Google Ads. We look into those search term reports, and that's actually where we find most of the terms that we want to target, right? We basically, but that only works if you actually spend a lot of money, then you have all those reports. But then it's guaranteed, right? Then actually there's traffic, because otherwise ads would never appeared. And actually it works for the website too, because otherwise people wouldn't have bought. So that's your criteria. And then the next thing, we can match that. Do you have enough products, and can we do ranking, etc.? Yeah. So it makes SEO, it actually turns into performance channel. So that's the exciting thing. It's a cost center normally. It's a cost center. You don't know the ROI. It's all about beliefs. Suddenly here you have a tool that converts the organic search into a performance channel.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I love the examples that you provide in the article, because to me it solves that problem of, I don't have access to the keywords, and even if I did, how do I optimize for them? There's that other side of the equation, and I have to optimize without making it look spammy. We've seen websites that try to put in 200 links to make themselves look like we've got the content, but it's not usable, it's not attractive, and the engines usually will knock that down.
Yeah, and that's a challenge sometimes you have to get your head around as an SEO specialist as well, is like, the keyword, and you want to target it, and there's an opportunity, and like traditionally what you would do is like, oh, let's write some content for that keyword. But really, when it's a commercial query, people want to buy something. They don't want to read a post. But traditionally, that was the only way to actually get out there in an easy way, because you just can't go to a website and say, oh, here's keywords and I want pages for that matching products, right? It's like most of those web platforms don't do that. So sometimes we talk with the SEO specialists and say, wow, but this is just a list of products. There's no content. It's like, what the products are the content. That's actually what they want. They want to buy. So that's the difference.
That's amazing. So what happens when someone goes from paying for those terms to naturally ranking? What is the shift from, profitability, return? What are you seeing when someone implements that on a large scale e-commerce site?
Yeah, so we see so we also have the product also works for paid search, so creating pages for every single keyword you target, or for shopping ads, creating pages that actually show more products than just the one. But yeah, on the organic search side, we deliver uplifts like 30% more non-brand traffic and revenue, like for large websites. Like we're talking millions of dollars per month here.
Wow.
That's powerful. So what happens is basically, well, it's amazing, right? Because businesses suddenly say, wow, now actually organic search is a channel I can measure. Do they stop spending on paid ads? They say, no, they don't. They basically just take this and they might even spend more money. So what happens from a business perspective is just it opens a new channel. That's what it mainly is. And it makes it measurable, because that's really the biggest problem for like a CMO or like a marketing department. Like you spend $1 million, 2 or even more per month on paid ads on Google Ads. You would never spend the same amount on SEO, not because, well, the only reason you don't do it because you can't measure the return on investment. Like Google makes it so easy on the ad side. Oh, you spend $1 million, you run whatever conversion reporting or Google Analytics. Here's your 10 million in revenue. That's a 10x ROI.
Right.
SEO you can't. And so we open that up, and suddenly you can actually measure that, and then you can start investing. So we actually have clients who spend more now on organic search than on paid search.
That is amazing. Yeah, it's kind
Mm.
of flipped things upside down. So does this? So most of the examples and we've given so far, I think, have been e-commerce. And
Mm.
one of the things I'm always hearing, and I always try to focus on, is the B2B side. Are there people using this for lead gen and business to business lead generation?
Absolutely. I mean, Longtail becomes relevant for lead gen or for any website. You basically need two elements. You need, on the one hand, you need content. Like if you don't have enough content, what do you do? So that, but then you also need people searching in different, we call it dimensions. So imagine like we have lead gen clients, for example, Pack and Send, they are like a logistics company.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 100 franchise locations across Australia. And so there you have one dimension, right? Sending from. Then you have, they send to, right? They ship to everywhere in the world. So there's countries you ship to, there's your second dimension. Then the third dimension is they ship like, was it fragile, large, awkward, and valuable products. So there you have like bikes, pianos, like household items. So there's, you have a lot of different items they ship. And then the beauty is people actually search in those three dimensions.
Wow.
So suddenly it's like, oh, we only have 100 locations and we ship, right? So it's the same thing, right? In how many different words you can say shipping, sending, something. But suddenly you realize, we get to 32,000 combinations here, because I said, well, I want to send my bike from Melbourne to Sydney. I want to send household items to Germany, or like there's all these different things. And then when you match that, if they have the content, then you can create the system that matches the demand in different dimensions and the content you have. But that's important. So there's some other B2B areas where it's not as easy, but that's a good one. Another one's like we have like business insurance clients. It's an aggregator. So they have different products. Again, there's different locations. And then you have all these different types of businesses like cafes, gyms, and they all have very specific insurance needs. Again, you have those three dimensions. And you can work with that. So that's important, right? Does the search market, and do people search in different dimensions? That's the main question.
I love it. I love it, because what that focuses on is using the available keyword data to find out how people search and the words they use. I love that, the essential of SEO. But what you're doing is, I like the classification of we're here, they're there, this is what they need, or this is how they describe it. And then the fact that it just exponentially increases when you start looking at locations or
Yeah.
other factors. That's what blows my mind about the long tail. It's just so powerful and it grows so quickly.
Exactly. And here's another one, maybe not so intuitive, like with client, American Addiction Centers, drugabuse.com in the US is actually one of our clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's actually really rewarding to work with them, because every lead, they call it a rescue, which is pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Right? People with drug addiction, again, what are the dimensions? You have people in different locations, and then you have all those different drugs, and then you have symptoms, and then you have different types of treatments. And again, like, I mean, looking at those reports every month is amazing, because you really see actually that like helps people immediately. I mean, it's nice to sell more sporting goods and more TVs, etc. But yeah, that's a very special client of ours in the US.
Well, that's what I just you describing that about the long tail. It's personal. It's personal and specific to that individual at that time in that place. And there's no way really to quantify that because it is so unique at that point in time to that person. And really, there's no way to capture that
Yeah.
unless you understand or have the capability of being everywhere at once and being able to optimize for that.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another interesting thing when you think about like websites and how are they optimized. I mean, and personalized. Most of the personalization on websites, like to cater for your needs, the person that's going to the website, happens with cookies, right? So when you're returning users, they have some information of what you previously were looking for. But when it comes to the search channel, you usually start a search with something new in mind. I mean, how often have you started searching for something and then you maybe see some like some ads somewhere based on your past behavior or what you want? Is like, I don't want this time. So again, like websites aren't built for that, but like this long tail search. So that's why we see this as a huge opportunity. It's cookieless personalization. It's catering to your intent now and not your previous one. So yeah, there's a huge opportunity to do this at scale.
I'm writing notes here because I love what you said. It's cookieless personalization, which I mean, really, that's where we have to go.
Yeah.
These third party cookies aren't going to last, and first party cookies themselves are somewhat questionable. What people will allow when you give them the freedom,
Mm.
and different browsers treat it differently. But yeah, like you said, it's unique to that person at that time and that specific need, and I love the classification of dimensions. It I think it's also healthy for a business to, and this is one thing when I had my agency and our keyword research projects, we would probably involve 3 or 4 people about three
Mm.
or 4 days, and that's all we would study were the keywords. And I just remember learning so much about that company, their business, what their customers wanted, and what the problems were.
Yeah.
And not just with the company, but in the industry. We would come out of that after a week knowing more about that industry than the client did and about what the attitudes and the intent of people were. And I think that's what's so powerful about keywords. And you can't just have the marketing department evaluate keywords. I feel like it's an enterprise wide idea of looking at keywords because they apply to the different aspects of the business, looking for support, looking for frequently asked questions, or how does this work, or how do I download this. It's not just for selling products, it's across the entire business spectrum.
Absolutely. No, I mean it's such a powerful market research and your own customer research tool actually. Those, and again, like, especially those long tail terms, right? Like those conversational queries as well, people looking for help or whatever. But what we also see, and is exactly as you say, every client we work with, like we have to understand their business and how people search and then buy on their site. At least as good as they do,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to then make our suggestions and then help them implement the system. But what we also see is like sometimes you can discover new opportunities.
Mm.
And actually clients increasingly ask us as well. They basically say, okay, where is opportunity you see, but we don't have enough products because we want to, like, where do we need more products? Like, wow, that's what I mean. What I found so powerful when I looked at it the first time in 2004, and we still don't have enough tools for that, and we're building a solution for it, but there's not a lot out there really where businesses can see, okay, here's my demand, here's how I fulfill it currently, and here are the gaps in my supply, and this is the new opportunity because the market's moving faster and faster. And the beauty is also, if you have a system like that, you can actually make money with it at the same time. So it's almost paid research, right? You're selling, but you actually you're generating revenue, but then you realize, hey, I could generate more revenue. I mean, that's what Amazon does, right? I mean, they
Right.
basically look at what's selling on their platform, what do people search, and then what products they can develop themselves to compete with their own customers. But you can actually do this like a lot, like on your own side,
Mm-hmm.
and every business should be able to do that.
One of my favorite examples is we're working with a business, and not only were we working on the keywords, but we were looking at trends. And we were seeing that for a very specific product group, that the demand was at its highest in January, February timeframe. And when we shared that with them, we were asking them, well, what's your marketing schedule? What's your calendar look like? And boy, all of a sudden we could sense a little bit of tension in the room. And they were saying, well, we don't start marketing those products until that's when we start, our initiative. But now they're seeing the data where people are searching January, February, and we're looking at the data. And, oh, they make their decisions in April. They start their research in January. And, it was one of those great meetings because the CEO was just sort of like, well, we've always done it that way, so let's keep doing it. No, and he says, maybe, let's try. The next few years, they shifted their entire marketing schedule to align to the trends they saw in the search data. And it was amazing, the difference. I mean, I think they doubled sales because now they are ahead of the rest of the market. And this was like a traditional B2B industrial company. And just being there when the conversation was happening just transformed the entire business.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and then the other thing when it comes to organic search, you have to be even 3 months earlier, right? Because the amount of times, I mean, you would know that from your own experience, like the amount of times you talk to people and say, oh, in October, we need to create all these new things, and then for Christmas, and then by the time it's live, it's like November. It's like, well, you now have a month to start ranking. I don't think that will work. Yeah. So you actually have to be even earlier. Yeah, no, that's powerful. Of course, you want to be ahead of the market.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I find keyword research to be an amazing source of searching for opportunities. But, like you said, it's the amount of time and the investment to do that. That's a little difficult sometimes to rationalize.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The amount of data first you have to just process that, and then the next thing is to do something with it at scale. That's usually it's hard.
Absolutely. Hey, Andreas, this has been an amazing conversation, and I really appreciate your time today.
Well, likewise, it was really, really great to chat. We should have those chats more often.
Absolutely. Andreas, if people want to find out more about LongTailUX, how can they find you? And go ahead and now give me your pitch.
Yeah, we're a customer acquisition platform that's changing how businesses connect people to products. And you can find us on LongtailUX.org. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So Andreas Dzumla, DZUMLA. There's not a lot of people with that surname. And any questions, I'm really happy. So what's also really rewarding, so we work with lots of large global enterprises because that's where the biggest opportunity is. So that's my mantra: the bigger the business, the bigger the long tail. And it's really what I've personally found very rewarding is that you really get into business strategy. You really you have all these really deeper conversations. I like those conversations, all the ones we have today. So yeah, please feel reach out to me personally as well, but otherwise LongtailUX.com if you want to find out how you can take more control of your organic search, but also make your paid search and shopping ads much more efficient. We're happy to help.
Great. Thank you, Andreas. And listener, depending upon where you are, I'm going to have a lot of links in the show notes. I'm going to have a link to, if you've never read the original 2004 article on the Longtail, I challenge you to read that because that's the foundation. I'm going to link to Millie's article on why no one talks about the Longtail, and then I'll have some links to Andreas and to LongTailUX as well. Andreas, hey, thanks again. This was such a great conversation, and yes, let's talk again in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, man. It was awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Dear listener, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Endless Coffee Cup, and I challenge you to go read those articles about the Longtail. It will blow your mind and hopefully motivate you to find out more about how people are searching and what you can learn from keywords. So thanks again. Again, make sure to tell someone else, give us a review. It always helps with getting the podcast in front of more people and getting a little more visibility. And always, thank you so much, listeners. You guys are great, and I love hearing from you. Bye.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.